the roots of it make sense, but the way it propagates, especially as the times change, might not. You can wash your hands, but the taboo remains.
Right? Society is very slow to change.
What is the most fascinating part functional consequence of the body? So, something that fills you with awe.
I guess the most obvious one is the brain, partly because it's so, sort of poorly understood, though we understand more than we ever have in the past. There's still so much that we don't understand about how the lump of matter in our skulls kind of creates this subjective experience that we all kind of understand like this really. So that's an easy one. I would say the kidneys are an underappreciated organ. The way they tinker with the bloodstream, raise levels of this, lower levels of that, kind of our entire lives from inside the womb until we die is just really incredible. And when you look at how much energy different organs consume, the brain and the kidneys are two of the biggest ones because the brain obviously in us is always active and controlling parts of the body, but the kidneys are just consuming a ton of energy to do what they do. They're kind of the unsung hero of the body, relegated to the back of the abdomen. That's the forgotten organs, and they are great. I did consider being a nephrologist, which is a kidney specialist, because I was so taken with the kidneys, but decided I like all the organs, so I couldn't pick just one.
So your book is ordered in a particular way: throat, heart, feces, genitals, liver, pineal gland, brain, skin, urine, fat, lungs, eyes, mucus, fingers and toes, and blood. All right. First of all, great chapter title. Is there a reason for this ordering, or is it all madness?
There's a few different reasons that went into it. I did want to start with the throat for the reasons that it kind of presents a topic of death, which is sort of obviously very important in the training of a physician, in the career of a physician. It's a big part of what I deal with. On the first day of medical school, we started the dissection of a cadaver in the class called Anatomy Labs. And so, in a way, we were kind of thrown right in there in the beginning, like, this is the end of the human story. Understand this. And then we sort of backed up to the beginning with embryology and reproduction and stuff. So it's kind of like I got thrown into that right away, right at the beginning, kind of like, here's a dead body. Now start cutting it apart and learn the name and function of absolutely every bit of flesh.
How did that change you? That first experience with the cold honesty of neurobiology.
Right, that's exactly what it was. Cold honesty about kind of the story of each individual human body. It has an end, and that's it. I think that, well, actually before the end of that first day, so what we did on that first day was study the superficial muscles of the back, like the lats or the dorsal and some other muscles. We cut through the skin of the back. My cadaver was lying face down on this metal gurney. We pulled back the kind of plastic sheets that we keep him moist for the next 4 months as we dissected it. Cut through the skin on his back and then started dissecting through the superficial muscles of the back. And that was really all we saw that first day. We didn't get any deeper, didn't enter the abdominal or chest cavity to see internal organs, but I was so fascinated with this sort of behind the scenes look at how things work in the body, how you move your arms, how you arch your back. These are the muscles that do it. That I decided I wanted to donate my own body for the same purpose. So I made that decision literally before the end of that first
Hope you're having a good day.
class, and I'm still sticking to it.
Someday there'll be a medical student that can watch and listen to this podcast while dissecting your body.
It could happen. They might not know that that person they're listening to on the podcast will be the carcass in front of them, but we never learned.
The universe will know.
The universe will know.
And they will acknowledge the irony or the humor, the absurdity of that.
The universe will chuckle, but the medical student won't know
person and maybe to a few others that knew him or her well. It's so fascinating. So, what kind of things can it reveal? Like, what kind of choices in terms of the injuries, the the catastrophic events, the lifestyle choices in smoking and diet, and all those kind of things. What can you see? What kind of history can you see about the human before you?
But all those things you mentioned are things you can see. You can, take the skin for example, right? Most things that happen to us leave a mark. As I say, a kind of a story written in the language of scars, where it tells you injuries you had. Same thing with animals. I've seen deer hides that have marks that look like they're made by maybe a barbed wire fence, something like that. You can tell, you sometimes it's conjecture, but you can sort of imagine what might have happened to cause that. Perhaps, two bucks were fighting and one got injured with an antler. And the same with humans. I have scars on my body, and when I notice them, I remember what happened. I got a big cut on my hand when I was 13, and it's still there, and I remember what happened, every time I look at it. So in that way, only I might know that story, but other people, when they dissect me and notice the same scars, they can kind of it can fire their imagination and I could have it.
They know that there is a story there. That's such an interesting way that the skin does tell a story with both tattoos and scars.
Right.
And some of the fun you've had and some of the damage you've done.
Even when I evaluate a patient, I can use scars to help me make medical decisions. So, for instance, someone that comes in with abdominal pain into the emergency room, you can see scars in their abdomen that tell you about, the past kind of activities of the surgeon, perhaps. I recognize the scars that are left when someone has their gallbladder removed, scars when someone has their appendix removed, when maybe when someone had a hysterectomy, and I can tell you what it might be or what it isn't. If someone doesn't have an appendix, their abdominal pain is not appendicitis, end of story. So, in that way, I'm sort of looking at the tracks or the footprints of past surgeries to tell me what might and might not be the cause of the patient's abdominal pain, which is kind of my main job in the area of figuring out what causes it.
Is there ways to get more data about the human body as we look into the future of medicine and biology that will be helpful to fill in some of the gaps in the story? So, you have companies, you have research that looks at, collection of blood over long periods of time to see the, paint the picture of what's happening in your body, mostly to help lifestyle decisions, but also to anticipate things that can go wrong and all that kind of stuff. Can you just speak to um, a greater digital world that we're stepping in, how that can help tell a richer story?
I certainly think that we have more data than we know what to do with right now, especially with kind of direct-to-consumer medical devices, smartwatches, etc., that are just collecting these reams of data. I have not seen them put to, I think, the eventual use that they will. I think that the potential is sort of, unmanageable. And I hope we're heading into a new age where, you can determine, for instance, is a person going to have more of the dangerous side effects to a drug based on their genetics? Or are they going to tolerate one drug better than the other, based on their genetics? We are slowly moving into that age, and especially the age of kind of completely synthesizing drugs in the lab. Much like, for instance, some of the COVID vaccines, actually, like Moderna never had the virus in their lab. They made that vaccine completely without ever having the virus itself, just by having the genome, which is sort of astounding. And there's a lot of potential going forward, based on that technology. So,
Oh, I didn't know that. So they basically saw it with the computer. It's computational.
right, you have the genetic code, you have tremendous power, even if you don't have the organism itself.
What do you make of Elizabeth policies and efforts like that? First of all, I am a curious. I'm drawn to the darkness of human nature because that somehow reveals um, the full spectrum of what human could be. So there's a lot of controversial thoughts about who she is and her efforts and so on. I think you maybe tweeted about it. I've read a lot of your tweets, so I'm not forgetting. But what do you make of her and those efforts? charlatans uh, that sort of snake oil salesmen that promise those efforts do more than they currently can.
I think that her, that goal that she has, that she created Theranos to try to achieve, to use less blood in tests, is a very worthy goal and a huge frontier that we have not achieved and that I hope we will achieve. So I understand why, when someone describes what a huge step forward that would be, and it would be indeed, I understand why people put some money behind it.
Can you describe what was the promise? What are we even talking about with Theranos? Just for people who don't know.
So Theranos is a company that was basically started to revolutionize the way medical blood tests are done, both to use a whole lot less blood in doing it. If anyone's ever been to the doctor and had 5 to 10 tubes of blood removed from them, it can be quite surprising how much they take out. And it's, that's the limitation of our technology, that we need those volumes of blood to run all the tests that we want to. And so the promise of Theranos was that perhaps with a single drop of blood, we would be able to know as much about the condition of their body without drawing all that blood. And thereby, there would be these devices she was going to create that would sort of do it. You put a drop of blood in it, spits out everything you ever wanted to know about what's in your bloodstream. And in a way, that would make it so much easier. It could be, you could have one in your home, theoretically. And I don't know why you'd wonder what your potassium level is on any given day, but you could check if you wanted to. And so that goal is very worthy. I put that goal up there with the frontier of making painkillers that are as good as opioids without the addictive quality. That would be such a huge revolution if we did have that. But particularly for me, because I trained in both pediatrics and internal medicine, so I learned to care for both children and adults. In children, we do draw much less blood. They have a much lower blood volume, and we use these tiny little tubes to draw their blood, and we seemingly get equivalent information as with the larger tubes we draw from adults. And I'm still unclear, to be honest, why we can't draw that little amount of blood from adults. It seems technically possible. I don't know what the barriers are. I'm sure there are other elements doing it. But I do think that it is a very important goal. And if Theranos had done it, they would really revolutionize the government.
So to return to that cadaver, that first day when you got to meet with the dead, the human body that's no longer living. So how quickly did it take you to get used to sort of, you said looking at the surface muscles in the back? I mean, that can be overwhelming as a thought. People listening to this and have never dissected anything, might be overwhelmed by that thought. So like, how quickly were you able to get used to the brutal honesty of the biology?
For me, it did not take long at all. I guess I've never been a squeamish person, so for me, it was kind of riveting, fascinating right from the first moment. But I do know some of my fellow classmates did have some trouble with it. Some of them I heard had nightmares in the first 2 weeks of anatomy lab. But then everyone, as far as I know, got used to it. And that was also actually a big lesson for me, that it's pretty amazing what people can get used to in their daily lives. And I kind of extrapolated that to people living through war and through terrible situations and living under oppressive regimes. And it really is amazing what people can get used to. Almost anything.
But in war, people often come back and they have nightmares. They suffer through PTSD. There's a lot of complicated feelings with that. Are echoes of those same complicated feelings possible in the case of training to be a doctor?
Yeah, I think sometimes it hurts just as a barbed wire fence can leave a scar on your skin. Emotional, psychological experiences can leave a mark on your brain or your memory. And I think that that definitely could be a problem in medical training. You do see a lot of things that are very shocking, very repulsive, things that you never forget. I know one of those students that had nightmares initially went on to be a surgeon. So I imagine she's not having the PTSD of kind of seeing inside her first dead body. She's inside them all day, every day now. But I'm sure it could. We go on to see so many kind of grosser or more shocking trained in medical training through medical school, and I worked with actual living patients, not just dead and embalmed bodies. So I do think that things can be remarkable, but I don't think that initial cadaver would be the most.
Yeah, but maybe some of that trauma, the demons make you a better surgeon. Just like somebody with psychological trauma that might make you a better psychiatrist. Returning to the order, is it order or is it chaos? The order of the chapters and throat and heart and pieces and genitals all the way to things of the soul.
So I did mention that, throat was the first one because I kind of wanted to throw the reader right into the brutal honesty of death. And I followed it up with feces as the third chapter, in a way, partly to also throw them right into the deep end of how I like discussing parts of the body and revealing their gross and fascinating aspects. So I didn't want to hide anything. When you train to be a doctor, everything is on the table, literally, in the cadaver lab, but also, you deal with blood, and spit, and vomit, and feces, and that's kind of the medium of your craft. And
The medium of the craft, that's right.
right,
Like you see a painter, this is the paint.
exactly.
And then you have to create an masterpiece with it. It's like almost like a dance. There's multiple painters. One of the painters is a biology. So let's return to the road. You mentioned the weird one. So first of all, a friend of mine said, I just see demons with like a bunch of poles that just walk around.
Not a,
We have ears, we have nose, we have mouths, we have the sexual holes, vagina, penis, and then what's the medical term for your asshole? Anus, thank you. This is a very technical discussion.
the rectum further.
What is there a difference between throat and mouth? By the way, when you say throat, are we talking about when that hole actually becomes tubular?
The throat I would count as just sort of the very back the back of the mouth, where the nose also comes down and sits, kind of where the tonsils are and the uvula. But you're right that we are a bunch of holes, but more accurately, we're a tube, right? We start in the womb as kind of this microscopic little disc, almost like a flatbread, and then we roll it almost like a burrito into this tube, and we're a simple microscopic tube, and from there we grow into bigger to bigger tube, and we become more complicated. And each end of the tube does split into various holes. So all the holes you mentioned at the front end of the tube, the front end of our body, right? It splits into the nose, the mouth, the ears, the sinuses, the tube to the lungs, the windpipe, the tube down to the stomach, the esophagus. And then the other end of the tube splits as well. Men end up with 2 holes, and women end up with 3 holes. The urethra, the vagina, and the urethra, and kind of the reproductive system.
So I'm learning a lot today. It really is incredible to start from sperm and an egg, and you have some DNA information. And from that, the building project begins. And then what that leads to is like a piece of dough, and then you roll it into a tube, and that tube then eventually sort of becomes more and more complicated and gets eyes and a brain, and then can create a Twitter account. So from it's really incredible. We just can't
Right, we are. And we sprout eyes and a brain and sense of smell and taste pretty much to regulate what comes in the front of the tube. We don't want to eat anything dangerous or poisonous. We want to choose what we eat. You can choose who we kiss.
Well, we seem to be motivated by what comes out of the tube as well, in part. And it's not just output, it's a feedback mechanism. Like we're also monitoring the functioning of the output. We're not just obsessed with what
We're very obsessed with the output. Absolutely right about that. People have medical complaints about their output very often. That are, I never cease to be surprised by a new complaint or observation about the output.
I think people have gone to wars over the output and maybe sometimes the lack of the output or the desire for output have thought of maybe a little bit better option because it's too multifunctional. That can you sort of elaborate on the multifunctional nature of this part? Are a lot of parts in the human body multifunctional, or do you find that more specialization is going to get the job done better?
There is a lot of organs, for instance, do have multiple functions. The pancreas has two. It's like two organs in one. One, secretes hormones, I guess, one into the bloodstream, and the other aspect of it secretes digestive enzymes into the gut to help you digest and absorb food. The liver is like 15 organs in one. Amazing how many different things it does. But the throat, so basically the problem with the throat is, as I said, we have two tubes that are right next to each other in the throat. One is for food, drink, saliva, mucus, whatever you're going to swallow. All of that stuff must go down the esophagus and food tube and end up in the stomach. And right next to the esophagus, millimeters away, is the windpipe or the trachea, which goes down to the lungs. And your throat does these daily gymnastics to keep everything but air out of the windpipe because you slip up once and you die. You can joke, you laugh and speak while eating, and it's curtains, unfortunately. So it seems like every aspect of the body, when I was learning about it in med school, seems so brilliant and so perfectly designed by evolution or whoever you might think designed it to favor survival, to enhance life. But the throat seemed the opposite. It seemed set up almost for failure. And we developed all these mechanisms of compensation, right? We have the gag reflex whenever food or something is headed towards your air pipe, your windpipe, or down to your lungs. It sort of has this sort of like projection of it, pushes it away. At the same time, we have a cough, which is something our body does when something inappropriate does get down the windpipe. When you get a little food down the long pipe, we end up coughing, and the coughing does usually flush it out and get rid of it. We even have something called the mucus elevator in our lungs, which is this constant flow of mucus up the airways, up to the trachea, dragging it. There are kinds of particulates that we've inhaled and stuff and food that went down the wrong pipe and dragged it up into the throat and swallow it kind of unconsciously all day, every day. Even the mechanism of swallowing is super complicated. It uses a number of cranial nerves, uses over 15 different muscles. It's this coordinated act to keep food out of the airway. You can see some of that is that when their neck kind of jumps upwards when they swallow, which helps lift the airway up against this kind of the epiglottis, which does get closed and allows food or swallowed drinks to kind of skirt just past it. But every time we swallow, those things do come with millimeters of going down the long pipe. And it's just thanks to these kind of compensations, these adaptations we have to the danger of
And then if you could just sit there and water, it makes you appreciate the wonderful machinery of it all. By the way, we have pulled up to our Instagram, follow, you have a post called Roast, and just showing so many different components and the lungs, the trachea, the esophagus, the entire machinery of it all. The teeth, the chewing, and so a lot of the structure of the anatomy and the physiology, does it echo other mammals? Are we just basically borrowing a lot of stuff from evolution and maybe making small adjustments, maybe due to the fact that we're not using our mouth to murder things like the other predators might? We use their thumbs.
Exactly, with hands. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap between different animals that I find that are tougher than that. Someone asked me, is there any animal in which the bird is better designed? And my first thought was whale, the blowhole kind of up on the top of it. So I think, well, maybe they are more separate. But when I looked into it, actually, no, the paths do become very close, just like in us. I saw a paper about some new discovered organ that actually helps keep food and drink out of the airway in there because they haven't had those before. So a different mechanism, but the same kind of basic problem is that we're tubes and the air tubes and tubes are right next to each other.
How well do we understand, since we linger on this little part, is there still some mysteries about the But because you mentioned taking the swallowing all these stuff in the brain that are responsible and all those different things that have to like an orchestra play together. Do we have a good sense from both a medical perspective and a biology perspective? Or is there still mysteries?
There's definitely still mysteries. We understand a lot about, for instance, how the swallowing mechanism, is coordinated in the brain stem, sometimes using some higher levels of the brain. But it is a very thoughtless thing, as you mentioned when you drink the water. It's not something we have to think about, thankfully, or keep thinking about it all day. Um, there's a lot we don't understand about the basic mechanisms, perhaps about how the nerves fire and how they kind of, coordinate on the microscopic level, how ions rush into and out of nerve cells to kind of create that electrical signal. But we sure understand a heck of a lot, and it's very fascinating.
So moving on to chapter 2, we'll jump around. The exposition of the liver does a lot of things. I also saw you retweet something where it said, showing that the liver is bigger than the heart, the body, or the universe is really saying, drink more and care less. So you give props. You said kids to the liver, to the organs, to the parts that don't often get as much pregnancy as the girl. So let's go to the parts. There's human parts. Your chest pain, we talk about it when we talk about love, amazing. Why do we talk about it?
But sometimes it can actually be some chest pain involved in love. I remember when I was med student, I was very smitten with the medical student. It's so brilliant and beautiful. And it actually does cause some kind of burning in your chest. I don't know what that is. I don't think it's from the heart itself. I don't know if it's like acid reflux or nerves. I'm not really sure. But I definitely felt some pain in my chest whenever I saw her. I don't know what that is. But you can see why someone might think, maybe it's your heart around the organ in your chest. When people come to the ER with chest pain, the big question is it my heart? And that's my main job is figuring out if it is or not. So I can see why. The way ancients saw the functions of different organs is fascinating, but often hard to explain.
Would it be fair to say that if you look at the entirety of human history, the way most people die has to do with the heart?
Well, it's like in America today, cardiovascular disease and coronary artery disease is one of the most common, perhaps the most common cause of death. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, it was probably not. People were not living as long as people were dying of infections that we tend to die less of these days.
That's true, but in terms of things to stab, I'm trying to sort of introspect, like why talk about the heart and love. My thought would be that it's because the heart was seen as the most important organism and be like the origin of life comes from the heart, the originator of life, and the way you figure that out, sort of an ancient perspective, is when you stab things, what is likely to lead to issues. It's like it's possible to imagine that the brain is not as special as we might think when you don't understand modern biology or physiology or neuroscience, all this kind of thing. Especially because pain, it's painless too. It's a stab it. The brain, I mean. Anyway, so that's really interesting. Sure, there's a poetic answer to maybe the way people wrote about it. So what to you is the wisdom and the design?
The main function of the heart basically is to push blood through the cardiovascular system, through the branching blood vessels to feed every cell in the body. When our ancestors started off as single-celled organisms floating in ancient glue, and they were surrounded by the medium that would bring them all the nutrients they needed, so there's no issues there. Then once you start getting multicellular organisms that are thicker and the ones on the inside in contact with that sort of nutritious glue that they're growing in, you kind of need a way to distribute the nutrients to every cell, and so that's what the heart branches versus the heart. The biggest disconnect between how the organ talked about in poetry and history versus its actual function is how the heart is. We ascribe all these things like love, passion, life itself that way. But, it just pushes it. There's a blood of infusion. There's blood infusion. Just that squeezing, that pushing creates the blood pressure that you need to get blood to every cell in your body, especially when you're standing upright to get blood to your brain. You need a certain amount of pressure to get it up there.
Isn't it amazing to you how much volume of blood just gets pushed through by this pump?
Absolutely. They say every red blood cell takes about 5 minutes to circulate and come back to the heart. And that circulation kind of starts in the womb and continues kind of until the moment that we die. But the volume is tremendous. They can never, take a break, basically.
And it's sort of propagating all kinds of stuff in our body, the delivery mechanism, blood, all kinds of good stuff and bad stuff, nutrition, drugs, all of that,
Medications too.
medication. Such a fascinating.
And it also takes the waste away. It kind of brings the nutrition stuff, brings the nutrients, especially oxygen, but many other things. And then it also, as it passes the cell, takes the cell's waste. So sort of the fresh water and the sewage system.
So about blood, what do you fascinating about the blood? Talk about the pump that spreads blood, but the blood itself.
Right, so the blood itself is sort of it's the most important bodily fluid, of course. From moment to moment, every cell in the body needs a flow of blood to bring it, most importantly, oxygen, but also
What a kid.
take away waste. And if that stops for even a few moments, you big trouble. So blood is sort of, the most important medium. It's also, doctors use it to kind of evaluate the body. It does have this kind of all-seeing quality to it where, we can evaluate organs through the blood. I can tell you about your liver, your heart, your kidney by taking a sample of your blood. So it's sort of like this crystal ball in a way, and we use it kind of all the time, to assess someone's health, to assess their disease.
Is it also the attack vector for diseases, for bacteria, for viruses, and all that kind of stuff? So viruses seem to attack you in the throat, maybe you can correct me, but they seem to attack different parts of the body, depending on how easy it is to access and how easy it is to get in, depending on what you prefer. If you want to do a little bit of hard work, you get in deep, or you don't want to do the hard work, but you don't get in deep. Those insurance viruses have. So is blood one of the attack vectors? What's like if you were trying to break into the human body, like a parasite, a virus, bacteria, how would you do it? Like what would be the attack vector you would explore?
Right, so you got to look for the body's weaknesses, of course. We have inherent weaknesses, for instance, like our respiratory tract. We have to breathe. We have to get air in from the outside. And so that's one of the engines in our body. So, when we inhale, let's say, a poisonous gas, it's an easy way in. You have to breathe. You can't hold the breath very long. But, air in our lungs is still kind of contiguous with the external atmosphere. It's not really inside the body until it does cross the lining of the alveoli into the blood. And that's when it really gets inside. And the other, besides the respiratory tract, the gastrointestinal tract is another way, kind of a chink in the armor. We have to eat, we have to drink, and therefore we're taking the external world into ourselves, into our gut, in order to extract from it what we need and let the rest kind of flow out. So those two, the gastrointestinal and respiratory tract, there's a reason that respiratory tract infections and gastrointestinal infections are kind of the most common that afflict us because those are the ways in to the body. So I would definitely pick one of those. Not just be a lazy cold in the nose, but really a more aggressive pneumonia down deep in the lungs to get across that barrier into the blood.
But also the whole sex thing that humans do. So speaking of which, let us go for time to the genitals chapter. So what are genitals? I think I've heard of those. I think I've read about a penis and a vagina. Can you explain to me how those work? Just ask it for friends, but also what is fascinating about it, and maybe what's misunderstood or we don't know about them.
Sure. So they're very unique organs. I would say one of the things that I like to point out is that stupid things that are the opposite of kind of enhancing survival. So, and they've affected the brain and you can become sort of focused and nuts based on those desires and genitals. So they can be dangerous organs too. But sexual dimorphism helps with genetic variability, as it does in so many other organisms. You take two people and mix them together, their genetics, you just get a lot more variation, more opportunities to try different genetic codes and see what will enhance survival. As we talked about sex and death. I talk about in the book a lot of, for instance, the female genital tract, how the uterus is very unusual.
What is this one?
It doesn't even sort of wake up and start doing its thing until the second decade of life. Even though female babies are born with all of the eggs they'll ever have in their ovaries already. They're sort of in stasis until they start waking up kind of once a month. And it's this cycle. There's so much in our bodies that are cyclical and rhythmic. The heartbeat, breathing, menstruation is kind of a very strange rhythm that takes over a decade to start, and only the rhythm beats once a month, which is very slow compared to every other rhythm of the body. The other unusual thing is, in medicine, when rhythms of the body cease, when they stop, those are emergencies, right? When your heart stops, that's a cardiac arrest, you need CPR, maybe an electric shock to start it. When your breathing stops, you need a breathing machine to breathe for you or something to reverse whatever might be causing suppression of your breathing. But when the menstruation stops, it's the point of menstruation in the first place. The whole reason that the uterus grows a lining and sheds it each month is to one day, get the ovum to get fertilized and for it to implant in the lining, then the rhythm ceases. That's obviously not a metaphor. Unlike most other rhythms, cessation is the point of the whole thing in the first place.
So these particular penis and vagina are that whole thing. Am I not using the wrong terms?
I don't know.
I just keep saying that.
There's more technical parts, very, very parts. Medical school, you learn every bump and every little part of every little organ, including the genitals.
I never really thought of this way to say that most organs are kind of full-time employees. 24/7 they're doing something. And then there's some organs, penis and vagina being representative of this, they're not functioning all the time. Only functioning once in a while will get us to do stupid stuff or awesome stuff and all that sort of stuff. But they're not essential to survive on a second-by-second basis. And with the whole cyclical nature of the human body, how many other cycles are in a monthly basis? Like that far apart. That's a fascinating design. The human body would do that and wouldn't start until second decade of life. It's almost like, what do I want to say? There's some kind of meta planning going on. Like this is the optimal solution for the sexual selection mechanism among like some of the intelligent species. Like it's useful to after the brain has developed sufficiently long to not be making sexual selection decisions. Like you need time for this computer, this really powerful computer to load in the info. Interesting.
You also need the body to develop, a child hopefully isn't big enough that you be pregnant and deliver another baby.
I wonder if there's animals in which this happens much more common in cases of stations.
Definitely, especially in certain kinds of insects, Drosophila, a lot of fruit fly, a lot of experiments are done on their life cycle is so rapid. A lot of insects and other creatures are almost ready to mate as soon as they're born. Not us.
Is there any improvements to the design? So a lot of people are very interested in these devices, right? If you were to sort of step back as a geneticist, biological designer, maybe a computer scientist, computer engineer trying to build human 2.0, or maybe a robot, how would you improve the penis and the vagina?
Well, the penis, for starters, let's also discuss the testicles. They're very important too.
Yes, right.
So they're fragile and they're important, and yet they're hanging off the body in danger, basically. So does that make sense? reason, because the chemical reactions that create sperm function best at a few degrees cooler than body temperature. And so that's why you might notice in the warm weather, they might hang further down, and in the cold weather, they scrunch themselves up to get closer to the body to maintain that ideal temperature to keep cooling. So it's hard, if you can create a sperm production mechanism that did not rely on that lower temperature, that'd be great. Keep them inside the body protected like the ovaries are.
They wouldn't rely on the low temperature. I thought you meant create some kind of weird internal cooling mechanism.
Yeah, well, I guess that would be one solution, but just that maybe a different type of chemical reaction, would not be reliant on the lower temperature, let's say. It would be great to design spermatogenesis or sperm production process that would function best at body temperature and then keep those delicate organs inside the body and not have them hanging out in danger.
Or maybe the argument for this design is maybe it's nice to put them in danger so you are constantly concerned.
Could be. Maybe that's beneficial for male psychology. I'm not really sure.
There's a psychological element here that so that's testicles. Penis?
A better way to do it, I mean, it's pretty good as it is. It kind of, when it's time for it to work, it grows and stiffens, and when it's time for it not to work, it kind of shrinks and hangs out.
Saw this Seinfeld episode, so I know how it works. Yeah, that was a good one.
But, that's also a bit unique, I suppose, that, the way it has this erectile tissue. Actually, they're similar in the mouth of certain baleen whales with a certain similar kind of erectile tissue that helps cool them off because they have so much blubber and create so much heat and moving around and feeding that they have actually a similar to the penis organ in their mouth, and that's cools them off. It's a big problem. They have to store all that blubber for fuel, but it makes them too hot. So it's compensation. They have an erectile organ in their mouth.
Okay. What about vagina?
The fact that miscarriages sometimes happen because of sexually transmitted diseases, because of trauma. It would be great if the uterus, where the growing fetus is, sort of even more protected from those things. I guess that's the side effect of the fact that people still have sex when they're pregnant are still, exposed to injury. There's a way to make it more protective, perhaps. That would be better. I did see an article recently about the artificial wombs, which are rapidly becoming a reality. And in animal studies, they're able to prolong the gestation of 5 months in an artificial womb.
Can you explain the artificial aspect of the artificial womb?
Sure. It's I believe it acts almost like a heart-lung bypass machine. So when someone's getting bypass surgery, their heart is stopped. Literally, they throw ice in the chest and they give a potassium infusion to the blood, which stops the heart. But the blood is run through a machine that basically does put the work of the heart and lungs together, gets oxygen into the blood, and then pushes it back into the body. So I believe it's a sort of similar mechanism to keep blood and nutrition flowing to the fetus. And so it's just not inside the body and there. It's some kind of other device. But I think that science is going to rapidly improve. One benefit is, babies are born premature, and while, neonatology is able to continuously have a lower the age of viability through better technology and understanding what the medicines and other things you can do to improve premature babies when they're born. Ideally, if, let's say, premature labor begins, you can't stop it. That baby's coming out one way or the other. You could just stick it into an artificial womb or continuous development. That would save a whole host of problems. Also, those babies born very early suffer from damage to various organs, including the brain, for the rest of their life. So that could be a very important thing.
Some aspects of the human body develop technologies that are think of those matrix here? This is very matrix. How are they floating? What are we even looking at? There's giant red spheres. This really looks like the matrix. I wonder where it's from, so there seems to be a paper on this too.
I don't know too much about it, but it's advancing very rapidly.
The world's first artificial womb for humans. Scientists in the Netherlands say there within 10 years of developing an artificial womb can save the lives of premature babies. Premature birth before 37 weeks is locally the biggest cause of death in newborn birth. Development also raises ethical questions about the future of baby making and so on and so forth. We're going to be facing a lot of ethical questions as we start to mess with human biology. In an effort to help human biology, we might start to mess. And it's going to be very interesting to take steps towards the matrix. All right. What about the neighbors? Poop, feces. There seems to be a lot of interesting stories in that particular output as well. What to you is fascinating? What to you maybe is misunderstood or a little known about?
Well, it's hilarious for one thing that we do it. The word is great as well. Yeah, there's so many different words. I do use, when I'm talking to the parents of pediatric patients, I use the word poop. I don't often when I'm talking to adult patients, choose a more mature word. But poop is amazing. I mean, I guess it's, it's sort of the dirtiest, the most vile, the most hated aspect of our bodies. It's the grossest. We don't want to think about it, talk about it, have it anywhere near our, food or social interaction. With good reason, I mentioned gastrointestinal infections are one of the most common infections the human body suffers from. And, what we call, the way they spread from person to person, grossly enough, is referred to as the fecal-oral tract, which means the bit of someone's stool you're swallowing, food water supply. For instance, diarrhea is actually quite a brilliant mechanism of these microbes, right? If you, let's say you're in the intestine of one person, your goal is to get into the intestines of another person. Brilliant to just trick their intestines into secreting all the fluid into the intestines to increase the volume of stool and its runniness, so that when they do poop, it gets into the water supply and then everyone else can just the same way like tuberculosis or coronavirus kind of infects your lungs and make you cough. Same stuff with the air and then
That's all.
yeah, brilliant. The diarrhea is a big takeaway lesson.
One of the most intelligent ones. Not just the particular cognitive elements. We're made up of bacteria and viruses. There's a lot of visitors in someone. That's the entirety of the system. Diarrhea is one of our better accomplishments in that phase. So I wonder, I think a lot of that is socially constructed, just how it's sort of supposed to be hidden away. It's something we always do, something, we chuckle about as children. But even in healthcare, it becomes this big topic of conversation because you end up talking about it constantly. Like I've seen the ER people come in. There's complete strangers, sometimes like a nice old lady who resembles my grandmother, and all of a sudden I have to ask her all about what's happening in the bathroom. Like, is she straining? What color is it? What's the consistency? Does it float on top of the water more than it should? Is it hard to flush? I mean, there's a million different questions you learn as a medical student, and you're like the poop detective when people come in with issues. And so it's funny, I guess, in the exam room with the doctor-patient relationship, there's sort of no barriers. You talk about everything, and you're talking about the most intimate details of a person's life, even though you just met them a second ago. It's so different than social interaction. Yet there is this social aspect. A lot of what I do is social. Being like doctors, what they do is mostly scientific, but actually just relating to another person. And you have to
maintain, your professional demeanor and this normal human level of interaction, even though you're talking about food. Um, and that's a skill, that's an art and a science.
Well, okay, actually, I want to linger on that because I'm a fan of just diving into conversations that are waiting with strangers, just getting no small talk. And this is like the ultimate. I don't know if it's the ultimate, but it's one version of no small talk. You get right to the point. That's really powerful from a psychology perspective. You're a kind of therapist, so you have the power to be a therapist. I don't mean just for the medical condition of the body, but psychological. There's so much fear connected to this concern, also self doubt, insecurities, even sort of existential thoughts about your mortality. All of those things are right there in the room. So I think one way doctors deal with that is they kind of cold wave out that. They almost have to do a mode. One is like going to friendly on the surface and cold about the brutal honesty of the biology. But I wonder if there's like a skillful middle ground, this dangerous place where you can help people deal with their psychological insecurities, concerns, fears, all those kind of things. That's just really tough to do.
Yeah, and it is a huge part of being a doctor is dealing with the psychological aspects of whatever's going on in the patient's body. I mean, in the ER, you deal with psychiatric left and right more than ever these days. And, that's a huge issue, not to mention sort of drug use, alcohol related stuff, that gets into sort of psychology and the human love of intoxicants and changing the brain's chemistry. And habits, of course, for treatment habits as well. I mean, a big part of, for instance, pediatrics is reassuring parents and kind of convincing them, giving them the confidence that what's going on with their child is not serious, will go away on its own, does not need any particular intervention. But adults too, reassurance is a huge part of the game. In the ER, you see humanity at its most raw. I feel like you get just tremendous insight into people, how they live, what they worry about, what they think about, how their body works, and also how their mind works. That you almost don't see anywhere else. They're really interesting ways to work, and also the way our society is shaped. The ER is where people go for almost everything. When they're suicidal, they come to the ER. When they're too high on drugs to walk, they come to the ER. Children who've been abused, sexually abused, physically abused, come to the ER for investigation. It's sort of like the whole purpose waste bin for the drag society, what people do to themselves and what they do to other people. You mentioned you're interested in the darkness of humanity. It made me think of the ER, where you really see what human life is like in the ER.
Okay, you tweet about, you write about, you read about the emergency room, ER. That's really fascinating. Just the little window you give to that world is fascinating. What lessons about humanity do you draw from this place where you're so near to death? There's so much chaos. There's so much variety of what's wrong, so little information, or the urgent nature of the information inflow is such that you can't really read them thoroughly and deeply and collect all the data on those kinds of things. You have to act fast, and then everybody's freaking out. Can you just speak to the human condition that you get a glimpse at with the ER experience?
Yeah, I think you do see all those things. I think on one end of the spectrum, it is this very unique place where you get all these unique insights. On the other end, it can become a ho hum workplace, just like any other. in a way, it is this great equalizer where people are kind of all the same.
Yeah, I feel like people sometimes, class, money, fame, power, makes you four times forget that you're just a neat vehicle. And just as good, just as bad as the other neat vehicles all around you. In that sense, there's this question sometimes raised, are some people better than others? And I usually answer no to that question because of that. Yeah, some people might be better at math, some people might be better at music. But in the end, we're just feedback. Beautiful as we are. There's a poem that just a small tangent I'm gonna take. I just saw it just acting that you have written. I have to classify it as a poem. Yeah. At first, I mean, first you have to put your shoulders way down and white coat pockets full stuff. Timid. You act out a role. Your white coat, accustomed. Your questions, the script. My cousin Moses, but you be there or rehearse that. One day, no one's going to find out. But then, you play the role again and again, repeating the lines, the emotions. The script slowly dissolves, the interaction becomes psychology, and the rehearsed act slowly fades into profession. You suddenly find yourself unable to tell if you're still acting or you're doing it for real. Now, you're a doctor. Jonathan Reisman, MD, Harvard, Massachusetts General Hospital Medicine Pediatric. Beautiful. So that is what it is to be a doctor. You're just acting. Fake it till you make it.
And I imagine every medical student has this feeling when they first go into a room, like I talked about asking this nice old lady about the color of her poop for the first time, and they're just like, "What am I doing here? What is this? Does she believe I'm a doctor? Yeah, this just feels absurd." Then it's again, ho hum, becomes normal.
Now, there's not a sperm chapter in the book. It's, you mentioned offline that this is the second and the third book that you're working on all about sperm. No, I'm just kidding. But or maybe I'm not. Humor doesn't make way for reality. Uh, so the tweet was that average human male produces 500 billion sperm, I believe, which is about 4 to 5 times more than the number of people who have ever lived. And each of those sperm is genetically unique. So you can think of them, kind of imagine the possible humans they could have created. And they're all different. They have similarities, of course, but they have peculiarities that make them different. And you can think of all the different trajectories, all the Einsteins, the Feynmans, the Hitlers, um, and all the people who have died during childbirth, would have died early in their years, given their different diseases. It's fascinating to think about. An average human, yeah, we're all winners of a very competitive race. The people who make it, we're winners. Hashtag winning. Is there something that you find fascinating, interesting, beautiful, ugly, surprising about sperm?
Sperm is, yes, it is a very interesting bodily fluid. Maybe I'll write about it in a second or third, but we'll see. But I guess sperm is interesting because it's kind of the only projectile bodily fluid from the body. Vomit can be projectile. Usually that's a disease state. That's not the expected kind of health state.
So sneezing, would you classify that or no?
True, I guess there's some particles in the air. I guess it's not a fluid. I mean, it's not a liquid. So true. I mean, cough in addition to sneeze, right? Sneeze is
So you said there weren't any, doctor, and then there are like 15 that you can name.
Vomiting is sometimes our stomach, there is something that shouldn't be there. All projectiles sometimes in their own way. Sperm is sort of interesting. It's created with the food for its journey. Sperm mostly feed off of fructose, kind of sugar, for the few days that they live inside the female genital tract. But it's sort of, I like comparing our genitals to the genitals of the plant world, which is flowers. And in the same way that a touch me not, for instance, the kind of flower where when you brush up against it, it sort of launches way, kind of the sperm is doing something similar, launched into the female genital tract, and then all trying to find this, competing against each other to find this egg. Really amazing. And when you learn about it from the biological perspective, the most amazing thing is how many things can go wrong. Just in the sperm not surviving long enough for it making it to the egg, and then some genetic abnormality causing miscarriage. That's sort of astounding that it works as often as it does. And I think the lesson there is just that people have a lot of sex, and so statistics just favor it's going to work out a good number of times.
Yeah, there might be intelligence in the design of just the sheer number of sperm. Maybe that's yet another way to inject variety into the system.
And redundancy, I guess. You have two kidneys, two hands, we lose one, still go on.
Yeah.
However many millions of sperm get sort of launched in every ejaculation. So, if a bunch fail, we're going to make it inside.
There's papers on this, by the way, that I read for some reason, not read, but skimmed for some reason, which is talking about which sperm usually wins. Like, what are the characteristics of sperms that are winning? And it's not the fastest. So apparently there's some kind of slaughter that happens early on. People will correct me, but it's not the fastest. There's an aspect of it, the lucky. It really is. Like the body tries to make it a random selection. It tries to make it fair in making it as random as possible. Interesting. And also interesting that they're fueled by fructose. I didn't really think about that. So they're carb-loaded athletes.
Right, with food for the journey.
So I'm somebody that actually does a lot of running on, I guess you would call it a fat-adapted athlete. So I do sort of meat-heavy diet, and so you can do a lot of endurance kind of stuff when you don't need any carbs, any glucose, any of that kind of stuff. And you're very low. Interesting to think that from like, no, they're total bros. Go to the gym, sprint, performance, short-term performance, and everything. All right, well, that's from returning to the liver, the place that deals with all our important decisions. No, many of the important decisions. Is there? You said that the liver does quite a few things. What do you fascinating you for?
Let's say its primary function seems to be as